All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, before I get started, I'd like to give all honor, praises, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Barcha Kodash, and double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone that has taught us His truth and sincerity. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect that is scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Shalom, shalom. All right, this is your brother Kodash coming back at you with another quick lesson. Lord willing, it's edifying and to the point. Okay, and in this lesson, as you can see on the screen, from End Time Headlines, all right, and it came out of February 20th, 2026, all right, recently, and it says Whole Foods ditching its dystopian pay-by-palm biometric payment option. Okay, and I'm reading into it because ultimately it's all leading to the prophecy in Revelation 13 verse 16 about the charagma, okay, which is the mark of the beast, the implantable grain of rice, okay, to where, like, you know, as you see on the screen, you know, the pay by palm, you know, where it's reading people's palm, ultimately it's just conditioning them to you know, get ready for the system that's already, you know, in their face. Okay, it's conditioning them to have that technology, okay, put within them, man, to the point where people, they're not gonna buck up against it, man, because they're already doing it. Okay, you see, for that convenience, you know, not losing their wallet and all that shit, you know, and ultimately it's gonna get into it in this article, but I'm gonna read into it. It says, in a surprising turn for one of the world's largest retailers, Whole Foods Market is removing its palm scan payment technology across all of its U.S. stores. It says, ending an experiment that many critics have labeled dystopian, okay? And ultimately, I had looked up that word experiment. When you go into it, experiment, it says the act. It says mid 14th century, the act of observing or testing. You see, so that's ultimately what it is. It's all a test. They're all testing to see how people is going to react to it, like how many people is going to obey, or, you know, how many people, you know, pretty much just taking down, you know, numbers. Okay, look, you know, this is a roundabout way of how many people is on board, and this is a roundabout way of how many people is not on board. Okay, and it says test or trial. You see, it says a piece of evidence or empirical proof. It says practical knowledge, sorcery. Okay, it says cunning, enchantment. Okay, magic, spell, trial, proof, example, lesson, sign, indication. Okay, and when you ultimately goes into that, when you go into that enchantment, it goes into 13th century. It says the act of magic or witchcraft, use of magic power. It says magical spell, song, concert, chorus. It says bewitch, charm, enchant. Okay, and then when you read down further, it goes into a figurative sense of allurement, And when I tapped on that, allurement brings you to 1540s, means of alluring. Ultimately, the action of attracting. You see, the action of attracting. You see, so that's ultimately what people is being. You know, this is what's being done to people, man. They're being attracted by the convenience, man. Okay, and ultimately that's gonna lead them unto their death. Okay, because the scripture speaks about how there's a way that seemeth right unto a man. Okay, Proverbs 14, and I believe Proverbs 14. I know it's in Proverbs 14. Proverbs 14, and I think, what, 12? Yep, Proverbs 14 and 12. There is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. You see, so it's going to seem right, you know, for people to get this technology to continue in society, okay? And ultimately, you know, because people, you know, they looking at it as a way of convenience, man. Okay, but not knowing, man, that this is ultimately gonna be to their demise, man. Okay, you see, any way, especially for you Israelites, any way outside of the way that Yahweh Shema Shai told us to follow, and concerning this MOTB, okay, he told us, you know, not to take it, man. okay, to ultimately trust in him and have faith in him, man, that he will provide. Okay, but if you take that MOTB, pursuant to the book of Revelation 14 and verse 9 on down, you will be tormented with fire in the presence of the Lamb and in the presence of the holy angels, man. You will be destroyed. You will take part of that second death. Okay, you see, that's what's going to happen, man, because you thought that it was okay. You thought it was right in your eyes. You know, scripture speaks about that. Lean not into your own understanding, man. Okay, what you think is right, man. Okay, what did the Lord say about this? Okay, because this is a very important prophecy, man, that is, you know, pretty much 100% of your fucking grade. Okay, you see, you had certain tests in school, man, that, you know, you could flunk, but this one right here, man, you don't want to fail this test. Okay, you want to know the ins and out of this prophecy and what you need to do in order to pass it. Lord willing, Abaratazah, you know, praying and hoping that you be able the Lord's elect, because the Lord's elect is going to get the victory over this. But, you know, the majority of the people in the earth, 2/3 of our people and the rest of these heathen nations, they're not going to get the victory over this. The Lord is going to give them over to it. But, you know, we are still sent forth, us as the prophets, we're still sent forth to warn you whether you will hear or whether you forbear. Okay, pursuant to the book of Ezekiel 2 and 5 on down. Okay, it speaks about that. Okay. But finishing up in the article, it says according to reporting from Zero Hedge, it says the biometric pay by palm system known as Amazon One will be fully phased out by June 3rd, 2026. Yeah, because, you know, ultimately, man, it's going to get to the point where they're about to just push the Karagma, man. Okay, they're done testing, they're done experimenting, they're finna just come on with it, man. Okay, and it says with devices being taken out of more than 500 locations after customers largely ignored the future. You see, because it's finna get to the point where they're finna come down with great wrath. Either you're gonna take it or we're finna put you to fucking death. That's what's coming, man. People's finna get hauled off into FEMA camps, and, you know, everyone is gonna be met with that conscious decision. You know, scripture speaks about it and you know, talks about it as being the you know, hour of temptation, man, that's gonna come upon the whole world. Okay, you see, people is no longer gonna be able to ignore, you know, this prophecy, man. Okay, it's gonna be in front of everybody's face, and everybody's gonna have to make a decision. Okay. And it says Amazon introduced the Amazon One system in 2020, offering an innovative way for shoppers to link their Amazon accounts to a scan of their palm and make purchases with just a wave of their hand. Okay. And it says the technology was part of a broader push toward frictionless retail experiences, promising convenience and speed without the need for physical wallets or phones at checkout. You see, because that's ultimately what it's all, you know, that's their plans, man. You know, that convenience, you know, and that's the convenience that MOTB is going to give you, man. Okay, but ultimately it's going to be at the price of your life. Okay, that's not what they're not going to tell you. That's what they're not going to tell you. That, you know, if you take this, you know what I'm saying, you know, you're going to be destroyed. You're going to catch cancer. You're going to get boils and, you know, cancer sores all over your body. Okay, and ultimately, you know, there's no repenting, man. You know, you're pretty much fucked. You know, you're sealed for judgment, man. Once you take it, you know, you can't undo that, man. You can take it out of your arm or take it out of your head, but at the end of the day, man, you know, the Lord has already seen that you took it, and, you know, you're marked. You're through. Okay, especially for you Israelites, man. You know, you take this MOTB, anybody to take it, but especially for you Israelites, man, you're definitely gonna be punished, man. All right, but like I said, everybody that takes this MOTB, the implantable grain of rice, will be destroyed, man, as it speaks about in Revelation 14, you know, verse 9 on down. Okay, and it says yet the adoption never reached critical mass at Whole Foods, and the company's own spokesperson attributed the decision to discontinue it primarily to weak customer engagement. It says, on the ground, shoppers told reporters they had rarely seen anyone use the palm scanners, with many expressing discomfort and concern over handing over biometric data. And it says some survey respondents describe it says describe the idea of storing their palm print with unease, highlighting privacy worries and distrust over how such sensitive information could be used or retained even once the service ends. You see, because ultimately, that's what they be doing, man. They hold on to your your information and your data. That data. All these data centers. They're harvesting all of your information, man. For a later date. And it says from the standpoint of the Bible prophecy. So like it says from the standpoint of a Bible prophecy, because that's what it's all about. It's all about prophecy, man. Okay, and it says from a standpoint of a Bible prophecy audience, developments like this resonate beyond mere retail innovation. For it says for decades, discussions about Mark, okay, which is speaking about that Mark of Revelation 13 and 16, man, the Karagma, man. Okay, the implantable grain of rice, which is going to be inserted within your left or your right hand or in your forehead, man. Okay, you see, and I'm gonna get that precept too, man. It says imagery or biometric identifiers, okay, which is going to be by way of that implantable grain of rice, have surfaced in eschatological reflections on identity and control in the last days. You see, and it says while the Amazon One system itself was a voluntary payment option, not a compulsory identification mark. It says it fueled public debates about how our bodies and biometric information intersects with commerce, technology, and personal autonomy. And it says the discontinuation of this palm scan payment experiment may be seen by some as a rare retreat of advanced biometric commerce in the face of public skepticism. And it says, but it also highlights that technology capable of linking our unique physical identifiers to financial systems is no longer the stuff of science fiction. It's here. And it prompts serious questions about the direction of digital identity, privacy, and accountability in a rapidly changing world. You see? And it's rapidly changing fastly, man. Because scripture speaks about how the Lord, had not the Lord shortened the days, okay, there should no flesh be saved, man. All right, so the days are being sped up, more and more, man, because, this prophecy is right at the doors, man. It's here, okay? And that's why, in the coming days, especially with the Passover coming next month, man, this prophecy could be, man, brought to pass. It could be mandated, man, shit, probably months, after the Passover, man. Who knows, but it's coming, man, and that's why they've, pretty much, they're ditching this, pay by palm, but, ultimately what they're finna come back with is that, without, that implantable grain of rice, you're not just gonna be able to come into this store. Okay, because like it was mentioning, people just coming in the store and just not wanting to use it. Well, what's going to come down to is that if you don't have that implantable grain of rice, which is, like I said, right here in Revelation 13 and 16. Okay, if you don't have that, then ultimately you're not coming in the goddamn store. Okay, you see? All right, you're going to be ignored. You're going to be ignored access. Okay, that's what's going to happen. Revelation 13, verse 16, and it says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead, right? And it causeth ultimately goes into pretty much Poeo, I believe.
Strong's G 4160. Poeo. Poeo.
Right. It says an outline of biblical usage to make. It says to be the authors of, to make ready, produce, okay, to acquire. And then when you read down into I, it says to make, i.e. constitute, okay? And when you go into constitute, when you look it up, all right, it says to constitute. It says right here in the Oxford Dictionary of English, it says give legal or constitutional form to an institution established by law. You see, that's the point. He's going to put it in the law, man. Okay, then ultimately, it's going to be made mandatory that you have to receive this technology in order to buy or sell, as it goes on to say. Okay, and that mark, okay, is ultimately, charagma. Okay, let's get that. I always like to bring that out. Strong's G 5480.
Strong's G 5480. Charagma.
Okay.
Charagma.
Right. And it says in the outline of biblical usage, it says a stamp and imprinted mark. Okay. It says of the mark stamped on the forehead or the right hand as the badge of the followers of the Antichrist, which is, there's many Antichrists, pretty much those that are against, the Lord's anointed, and the Lord himself, which is this whole system, man, this whole beast system, subscribing and bound down to this system, you pretty much, going against the Lord, man. You pretty much on the devil's side, man. Because it's either you with the Lord or you with this system, man. Speaking to you Israelites, you so-called Blacks, Hispanics, Latinos, Native American Indians. It says a thing carved, sculptured, graven work. Okay? You see? And that's pretty much the point. It says in the Strong's definition, it says a scratch or etching. Okay? You see? Just like when you go get tattoos and shit, man, they're etching, into your skin, man. They're etching that ink into, layers of your skin, like, probably like your third, however many layers that you have, but it goes deep into your skin, man. Okay? And that's ultimately what they're gonna do with this charagma, man. They're gonna etch it up under your skin, okay, with that charax, okay, which is the device, that they're going to use. I believe the next one goes to charax, which is a pale or stake, a palisade. Okay, you see, a trench. Okay, it says a sharpen to a point, because ultimately that's what's going to be used. If you ever seen the little utensil that they use, to puncture that charagma within you up under your skin, that's what's going to be used, man. All right, it's almost just like someone is giving you a shot, man. They're just going to just poke it right in you, okay, and it's going to be in you, and that's what you got to have. That's what you're going to have in order to continue in society, to function in society, man. Without it, you're not going to be able to do nothing. You're going to be pretty much ignored. Okay, you're going to be ostracized from society, and ultimately, chase after, man, and put to death, man. Because it speaks about that in Revelation 20:4 about how those that that wouldn't bow down, okay, that to this system, and took his mark and worshipped him, okay, ultimately, you're going to be put to death, man. And the Lord's elect is gonna some of the Lord's elect is gonna be put to death, man. Okay, because they're gonna remain faithful unto the Lord, man. They're not gonna bow the knee. They're not gonna receive this man's mark, worship his image, which is the NWO, his philosophies, the shit that he's pushing, and they're not gonna bow down, man. They're not gonna worship, this man. Okay, you see Esau Edom, the so-called white man. Okay, you see, and it says in verse 17, Revelation 13 and verse 17, and that no man may buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Okay, you see, so you ain't gonna be able to do nothing, man, unless you take that device, man. Okay, unless you take that device, and that's what it's about to get to. Okay, and that's that's the bottom line. Okay, this is Habakkuk. Let me get that in Habakkuk 2 and verse 3. Okay, Habakkuk 2 and 3, it says, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry," right? And we're seeing the vision, that is appointed for, the end. Okay, it speaks about it in the NLT. It says the vision, vision goes to the Hebrew word chazon, which is the prophecies, divine communication oracles, right? The prophecies is for, pretty much, this vision is for a future time, man. All right, the prophecy is for, a future time. Okay, you see, and we're in the future, man. We're at the end. Okay, the prophecies, the prophecies of the end is being manifest right now, man. Okay, before our face. All right, rumors of wars, earthquakes in diverse places, the Charagma, okay, talks about World War III, okay, and it says it describes the end, okay, it describes the end of this age, man. All of the prophecies, okay, that are set to befall this place and set to come to pass, okay, it describes the end of Esau's age, man. Okay, all of these prophecies is going to usher in World War III, which is going to bring the end of this man's age. Okay, where Lord Yahushua is going to return back and destroy this man and, deliver his elect. Okay, and it says, and it will be fulfilled. You see, and it will be fulfilled. All right, Isaiah 55 and verse 11. The Lord's word is not going to go out void, man. Okay, it's going to accomplish that which he please. And it says, if it seems slow in coming, wait patiently, for it will surely take place. It will not be delayed. You see, it will not be delayed, man. Okay, so the prophecies, man, they're not going to be delayed, man. And like I said, with the Passover coming next month, in March, the Lord is about to speed it up. The Lord is he's about to kick it into higher gear. Okay, just like, the truck driver, you got the high and the low. Okay, the Lord is he's finna shift that splitter. Okay, he's finna hit that splitter up into high gear, man. Okay, you see, the Lord is not he's not finna fucking play no games, man. And then, I believe March 3rd, I believe. I was seeing March 3rd. I had posted it on my page. You got a blood moon, man. Okay, so these are all signs. Okay, letting us know that look, man, the Lord is about to make a move, man. Okay, so how should you be preparing yourself, seeing that all these things is is about to take place? The Passover, and just seeing the prophecies come to pass, man. Okay, how should you be preparing yourself, man? Okay, because these people that's in the world, they're gonna be taken, like like Scripture say, it should come upon the people as a snare. Okay, the prophecies, the end. Okay, when all hell breaks loose and this, this system, this digital system, is ushered in, and people is just falling right into the trap. Okay, not knowing, man. Like Scripture say, if the blind shall lead the blind, they both should fall into a ditch. Okay, but the prudent man is foreseeing the evil. We're the prudent man. We're foreseeing the evil. We're hiding ourselves in these scriptures because we knowing what's coming. Okay, we knowing the ins and outs. We knowing the consequences of taking this MOTV, man, to continue in this society, man. Okay, we know that ultimately, man, you're going to be destroyed, man. You're going to be judged. Okay, so, I just wanted to bring that out, man. Just a quick article, just going into it. It was just on my spirit, man. Lord willing, it was edifying to the point in closing. I'm going to give honor, praises, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Kakodash, and double honors to the elders and the apostles, a great millstone that has taught us this truth and sincerity, peace, and blessings to the hopeful elect that is scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Until next time, shalom.